Hello and welcome to another episode of the Show Me Mo School Facilities podcast, hosted by Joshua Peach, that's me, and MSPMA, the Missouri School Plant Managers Association. I'm excited. This is out of 200 plus podcast episodes that I've either been on or recorded. This is the first time that I have a guest with the same name, Josh. So I've got Josh Schaffer with me now at the Wentzville School District. And so I might sound like I'm speaking in the third person, but I'm not. I'm speaking to my guest, Josh. So Josh, first and foremost, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for making some time here today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No, this is, and you're a seasoned veteran because you've been on the Burke Jones podcast,
Yep.
Which Burke and I have a friendly back and forth on because he is just knocking out of the park across the river, next to the cross state lines in Kansas with his podcast. So I'm not going to haze you too bad. Right. But so we're here today in Lee Summit. Let's talk about MSPMA first, because I think MSPMA is just a really amazing organization.
It is.
How did you get involved in? And you're on the board. You're a chapter region president. Talk about a little bit of the organization, and first, how did you decide that you wanted to get so involved, to be a free servant leader? Because board members don't get paid, right?
No, they don't.
Yeah.
So I think my involvement was I took sort of a roundabout path there. One day I was working at Parkway School District as the facilities manager, and I had been out making some runs during the day and checking on some staff and facilities folks and supporting my team. And I got back to my desk, and I had a missed call from Dr. Charles Brazil from St. Charles School District. And I don't even know who this guy is, and what the heck's going on here? And so I called back and it was, hey, good friend of mine, Charlie Branham, wanted to wanted me to touch base with you, and I have a position open over here and for director, and said you'd be the guy for it. And so fast forward a little bit, I got over to St. Charles there, and I can honestly say one of my best friends now, and truly remarkable human being, Dr. Charles Brazil, kind of got me hooked up a little bit deeper with Charlie there, and here we are. Charlie didn't give me much of a choice.
Charlie doesn't give anybody much of a choice.
No, he doesn't.
He is it's amazing. First of all, his network, right? He's got this amazingly wide, he knows every school district, he knows every person in the industry, and figures out how to connect the dots. And he kind of shows you the things that you're interested in that you don't know that you're interested in, right? And then all of a sudden you get into this thing. I got a question for you, because it's fascinating. I've had the honor to be on the outside looking in with you guys with a number of things, this podcast being one of them. But one of the things I've gotten to do is sit in on a board meeting. And your board meetings are very unique. First of all, you've got a good number of folks, probably close to 20, if not 20 board members. There's boards that just go along, right? They just nod their heads yes to everything. There's boards that have these, some ego to them, and there's conflict, unnecessary conflict with them. Very rarely do you see a board that can have question and disagreement, whatever you want to call it, but really have the absolute respect for everyone. It's like everyone checks their ego at the door. Everyone comes in, the feeling of everyone being equal, everyone having the stage or the platform to share what they want. Has it been like that since you've come on the board? Do they have a conversation with you which says, hey, we don't all need to agree, but we all need to respect one another? Is there some magic, is there some magic concoction that they have you drink? I mean, it's amazing to watch.
I'd like to say there is, but there isn't. I think that's just something we all sort of understand when we volunteer for this. We all know that we're doing the same things, but we're all doing the same things in different places. So our demographics look different, our geography looks different, but we're all doing the same thing. So working in between those lines and figuring out where all our commonalities are, it's a great thing. That's where I think that's how we all check our egos at the door, because we know we're all dealing with the same struggles.
Paul, Anastasia, and I left your meeting, and we just kind of looked at one another and we're like, that was really cool. You guys had call to action. You didn't leave anything on the you didn't table anything. It wasn't like you didn't open up a discussion and say, let's table this for the next meeting, which you have a lot of that. Like, let's have a meeting to talk about a meeting, to consider a meeting, and then we'll discuss it all at the next meeting. You guys literally have, something's on the table. You go through it. You say, this is our call to action. We're all going to meet Thursday virtually to vote on this or to do this. It was really interesting. So I hope you guys keep that going. The other piece of the association that's really cool, that and why I'm bought into it, like why I'm all in on Missouri, is there's a lot of these organizations around the country.
What, including the hockey team you're all in on?
No, I'm not in on the hockey team, the baseball team, the football team that you guys are.
Fair.
I mean,
That's fair.
and I got Kansas City Blue Be Awesome shirts that
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that was the color we're now calling it.
Yeah.
But no, the sports I'm passing on. Everything else, Missouri, I'm in on. Which Kansas City Royals and the Cardinals are both playing today.
Yep. Indeed.
And we're leaving just in time. So but no, what's really interesting to me is we're here today at Lee Summit, and right next door you've got a half-day core certification workshop. You guys have built a whole certification component, 7 stages, I think it is. I moderated yesterday for this new half-day idea of bringing in best in class leaders and programs, and moderating folks that the job isn't presenting or speaking there, but they have an incredible knowledge of understanding. So building an engagement program, you guys are constantly like raising the bar, but putting all of these programs together. And Missouri's a big state, right? Big state. You talk about demographics, I think you guys have it's like less than 30 if you're almost 500 school districts, or over 3,000 students. Like, you have the large percentage of school districts are rural, a couple hundred, some might even only have 100 students. But you guys deliver an incredible value in education throughout the year. It's really kind of a powerful thing to watch, because next door, there's 100 or so facility professionals here, determined to do better.
Yep.
Right. How hard was that to kind of get moving and get rolling? Because I saw 40 some odd graduates that got all of the certificates that was the largest one, right? How hard is that to keep that momentum and that energy going? Because at some point, well, do I need to do this? What do I need to do? But it seems like you're constantly giving a shot in the arm of infusion of energy.
I'd like to sit and take credit for any of that. I don't think I can. I think when I came into my role with plant managers, a lot of this was already established, and I think a lot of that goes to some of the seasoned vets that I'm now working alongside, and Charlie, keeping some, like, as you said, the shot in the arm, keeping some of that going is, for me, I'm regional president for St. Charles, St. Louis, all that. And so keeping those regional meetings going, those quarterly meetings where we talk about roofing or insurance claims or lead abatement or asbestos, things like that, keeping those things going, having an agenda and keeping the players and going. I have had an interesting opportunity, not interesting, a good opportunity to meet Sherry Pittman this morning. I'm looking at her business card right here. She's from the Biome Steam School in St. Louis, and she's now taking part in some of our classes because she wants the certification. And she's at a charter school in St. Louis.
Oh, wow.
And one of the things I told her this morning was, well, if there's any time I can ever be a reference, or if you ever need anything from me, feel free to reach out. This is, in my opinion, this is one of the strongest networks in the state in terms of associations and committees you can be on, because you can't lose.
Right.
I've said the same thing to my little brother, who's about to take over as the director of operations or facilities at Northwest School District in Jefferson County, Missouri. I'm trying to get him involved in this too, and I think he's going to jump on board with us too and start taking advantage of all we have to offer. But in both of those conversations, I've said basically the exact same thing. You cannot lose with this network. You need information. You need, you need a template. Anything, it's here.
Yeah,
you can't fail.
Well, Kyle Gorell did a presentation yesterday. He was in Lee Summit, and he shared the indoor air quality checklist. That he created with a few others. And they created it and they shared it. It's on the MSPMA website and it's
Mhm.
shared for everybody. Which is, it's got great best practice and a checklist of these are the things that you need to do to maximize having good indoor air quality for your
Right.
school. So that just that alone is worth
Mhm.
the price of admission. So I think you're spot on. This is great, the great way to transition, because I didn't know your brother was
Yeah,
a facility director, so it
yeah.
runs in the family. And
Apparently it does.
yeah, typically you see, father, son. I haven't seen a dynamic duo
Yeah.
of two brothers. First of all, how did you get into this business? Like, did you, when you're 4 years old and you were out, riding the bikes with everybody, you're like, you know what I want to do when I grow up? You might want to be an astronaut, but I want
Sure.
to be a director of facilities at a public school district in the
Mhm.
great state of Missouri.
So I will I'll give you the long story if you have time.
Oh, absolutely.
So my father, rest his soul, worked for special school district for close to 30 years.
Yeah.
And in those days, the receiving and shipping dock was over at the administration building, which is located at 12110 Clayton Road, which is now the administration building. But back then they had a dock over there. And he worked in shipping and receiving in the warehouse. And that in those days, that's where it was. And so on weekends, he'd have to, come in and work overtime over the summers to get,
Yeah.
get shipments out so that the teachers had all the supplies that they needed. And so to your point, I know you're tongue in cheek, but
Yeah.
it's true. 4
Yeah.
or 5 years old, I was in a warehouse for, St. Louis
Yeah.
in St. Louis schools, just kind of looking at things and looking around and just hanging out with my dad. I was not the type of guy that liked school at all.
Yeah.
I didn't like sitting down and being in front of a classroom and being told what I need to learn. I'm the kind of
Yeah.
guy, and still am very much. I like to learn what interests me.
Right.
And so I just hated sitting in a classroom. I think my penance for that is now serving
Yes.
in public schools. And so I went to school to be an HVAC technician after high school. I didn't do the 4-year thing. I did the 2-year thing, and worked at special school district after my father. And
No, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah.
So it was father, son. Yeah.
Yeah. And so worked at special school district for a while there. Got an invite from a friend to go work at St. Louis University, where I was a technician there for a little while. And then I was lucky enough, they say in life, timing's everything.
Yep.
And had an opportunity one day to kind of shine in a really sticky situation with a flood and everything else. And someone who was in a position of power noticed that and said, "Hey, why don't you come work with us? I see a little bit more in you." And I'll give that individual a lot of credit for that. Was kind of my start.
Yeah.
And really loved everything I did at St. Louis University. Right.
Yeah.
And the history there, the sprawling campus, and just learned a lot.
Yeah.
But it's where I cut my teeth. And then they were talking about some cutbacks and things like that. And that sort of reputation I had with special school district, I had an individual there that was the head of human resources at the time,
Mhm.
reached out and said, "Hey, I know
Yeah.
the university is looking at cutting back, and thought about you immediately, but you may want to give K-12 a shot, because I heard Parkway's hiring for a manager position." I didn't know anybody, excuse me,
Yeah.
at Parkway at the time. And so I put in for it and
Yeah.
kind of showed them in an interview what I thought I was capable of. And then I went to St. Charles as the director.
Yeah.
Passed a $50 million bond issue, which they are still working on and moving forward on a bunch of LED upgrades, mechanical upgrades, and building additions, all kinds of great stuff over there. And now I've doing basically the same thing at Wentzville, just on a grander scale.
Well, that's a pretty cool story.
It's a mouthful.
Especially, no, well, I mean, it's cool because it was a father-son
Mhm.
thing, and I'm sitting there listening to you, and I'm saying, yeah, I was a 5-year high school grad, and when I left and I finally graduated on my 19th birthday, I mean, I tell people all the time, I didn't spend 5 years because of my poor academics. I wanted to line up a couple of special occasions,
Right.
and so my 18th birthday wasn't on my 4-year graduation, but it was on my 5 years. So I just figured I'd take the extra year. But I can remember, getting my diploma and being like, I'm never going back into school, back into the schools again. This is great. I'm gone. I went to community college for close to 3 years, and I'm still considered a second semester freshman and under double secret probation. So when I left there, I'm like, I'm done with schools. And 27 years later, I've set foot and thousands of school districts around the country, and over 1,000 colleges and independent private schools. And I love it.
Yeah.
You find that you love it. You find that the purpose that you had when you were there is not the purpose that you have being here. And it's kind of neat. So,
interesting how things, come to fruition like that, right?
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things that, and I tell people, I can never promote curriculum. I can never promote the importance of English and science and social. I think they're important.
Oh, for sure.
But for me, that wasn't what was important. What was important was having a space where there was hope and love and comfort. And I didn't realize it as a child. I realize it now as an adult. It was like you had your friends, you had the camaraderie, you had the programs. There's so many different programs for you to kind of figure out, what you like, right? There's tough stuff to it too, but the importance of that facility being the cleanest, healthiest, safest space that you can possibly make for those kids, especially kids that are in tougher positions, right? The kids that don't have a home to go to, or don't have a family that necessarily loves them the way that they deserve to, or have a space that doesn't, they have a house that has a leaky roof. I was just telling you about my leaky roof before we got on here. And the operations team, that's who makes that happen, right?
Absolutely.
And sadly, so many of them say, I'm just a custodian. Last night, I was having a conversation with one of the attendees here. He says, well, I'm just a technician. And I said, well, you're just a technician for some of the most important space in your community that provides for not only students, not only faculty, but all of your community citizens have access to your buildings. And you make sure that the lights go off and on, that it's comfortable for them to walk in and out of, the water's not coming through the roof, that all these things that they walk into your buildings and then they're happy. You're delivering happy. So you can say you're just a technician, but put all that other stuff with it, which is important. So that said, how big is Wentzville?
Wentzville covers about roughly 100 square miles, a little less. One of the fastest, if not the fastest growing school district in the state of Missouri. We're growing at a clip of I think between 400 and 600 students per year.
Wow.
A few of our buildings are busting at the seams, and we're already looking at building another feeder pattern here at some point. That's something where we're working with demographers and talking to the county and cities, local cities, and how do we support that?
Right.
If we're booming the way we are, how do we support that?
What's a student enrollment right now, like roughly?
Oh goodness. I think I want to say somewhere around 20,000.
Oh, wow. So yeah, that's a pretty considerable,
give or take. We're in that window
somewhere. Growth. You're talking about 5% growth year over year, and your average elementary school or middle school is about 600 kids. So if you're set right now with square footage for the kids you have, you literally are looking at building a new school every year.
I've only been in this position with Wentzville three months now, and I walked into a building called Frontier Middle School. And when I walked into Frontier, I took a look around. I was like, holy cow, this place is as big as a high school.
Yeah.
It's as big as a high school. No joke. You walk in there, holy cow, this is a huge building.
I'm gonna have to put that on my Paul, we got a school we got to do a tour of here.
All right.
Frontier. It's on the list. I just wrote it down.
Frontier
Middle School we're putting on the list. So so you've been there for 3 months. And how many construction projects or school projects did you walk into that were already, because you get this is something that people that aren't in this space don't get, is that you're in one of 3 spaces with your school, with projects, right? You always have 3 things. You always have projects you just started. You always have progress. You always have projects that are ongoing, middle, and you have a project that's closing out. You always have those 3 things happening.
For sure.
So when you walked in, how many in progress projects were?
There's a handful of in progress projects that were just we're sort of in the design / we're getting ready to bid this out phase. Timberland High School auditorium's getting a new roof this summer. The nurses station at the Holt High School, that's getting a complete renovation. That's getting taken care of this summer. Then there's a big handful of in-house projects that we're taking care of too.
How hard is that? I've never asked this question, but how hard is it to walk into projects that you didn't have a lot of foresight on. You didn't have a lot.
Sure.
You weren't part of the planning. Like that's got to be stressful, right? Like for me, everything that I do, I'm a part of, right?
Right.
And so, but walking into large scale projects that you're like,
The biggest,
yeah,
the
the fastest growing school district. Like I'd be up at night going, oh man, oh boy.
Oh yeah. So I think a lot of that falls on a couple of factors. How quickly you're able to get into the weeds and start retaining information.
Yep.
I think I'm lucky in a couple of respects. I have a project manager named Hugh, who's been in the district for several years. And so anytime I have a question on something, I walk out of my office and go next door and go, oh, hey, by the way, Hugh, about this, where are the submittals for XYZ? And he goes, oh, yeah, that was part of, and then he'll show me where in the drive that's at or what file that's in. And so it's a little bit of me immersing myself into, what I've inherited. And then the other part of that is John Blanton, who is also a plant manager member, left this role and left me with a pretty good spreadsheet of like a 5-year plan, what all that, what is all in there, what all needs to be taken care of, and some rough estimated budgets for those. So I didn't come into it completely, completely empty-handed.
So you just hit something. Schools that don't have that growth, can really look at a 5-year plan realistically, right? Here's where we are, here's where we're at, and I don't want to jinx anything, but you could have 2 different things happen. You could have something that pumps the brakes, right? You got a 5-year plan now, then you get smart people that forecast and do all that stuff, and probably do it with some good looking. But how you could hit the brakes, right? You could be planning out 5 years and say, yeah, we're going to have to build a new school a year. We're going to have to do this, and this. And then all of a sudden the growth stops, because that's happened in some districts, right? That's happened in a district in Texas that was the fastest growing. I'm drawing a blank on the name of it, but COVID happened and they went from a 10-15% increase in student enrollment year over year to actually missing like 10% of the student population. Nobody knows where they went. That happened a lot for COVID too, was kids never came back, homeschooling increase and all these other things. Or your growth could extrapolate. They could say, hey, Josh is in town and he's taking care of business, and all of a sudden you're going 1,000 people. How much do you see? Like that's a constant moving target, right? That 5-year plan is a constant moving target. Do you see it as something that you think will be more that you're going to have a lot more, trying to think of the word, but do you think it's going to be harder to do that than it was in St. Charles or your other districts? Or you think that your team and them having that adaptability and understanding that you're able to kind of keep a good handle on that?
Yeah. So I tell my team all the time, and the gentleman next door, named Pat Gutting from Parkway School District, giving me a hard time. Pat's a great guy, but he tells me all the time, he's like, are they keeping up with the speed, or are they keeping up with Josh speed? There's a difference. So anybody who knows me, I'm a runner and a doer. I like to get things done, and obstacles annoy me. So I like to get a plan together, and I like to make take decisive action on those plans. So but no, to answer your question, I think I was fortunate enough to come into a situation where I have people who also want to run and do and get things done. And for me, I think they're buying in and trusting the process. Trusting the process. I read it, or I watched in another podcast a while back, was trusting the process is just is a fancy way of saying, I've messed up before and I've made these mistakes. You're going to have some faith in me because I know what pitfalls to avoid. And so I kind of held on to that. I thought that made a lot of sense.
And you, because you've done that, you also understand that you're willing to fall into some of those again, so you get to that next step, right? It's interesting. My one of my business advisors, friends, trusted people in my life, Les Trackman, he's a successor CEO, which is kind of what a successor facility director is in a school district that's coming into a situation like yours. He wrote a book titled Don't F It Up. And it's for successor CEO and the founders to kind of understand what all that means. And looking at the title, so many people look at it like it's a book that is giving you all the guidance on how not to F things up. And the reality is when you're coming in, you're actually willing to F things up to make it better. Right. But you also have that history. You also have those wounds that says, oh, I've done this, this we don't need to do again. But this is uncharted territory. And I think I'm good to go to try this and see how it works. You guys all need to be on board with me, which is kind of cool. But yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I love obstacles annoy me. That's a good one. No, this is good stuff. Now, your brother, before we go, there's a couple things that hit me. Was your brother in the warehouse growing up too? Is that how he?
Yeah. So we all I'm quite a bit older than he is by about 10 years, and so yeah, but he had a very similar upbringing as I did, and very handy, very, very sharp, very knowledgeable what he does. I think he has a very, very high aptitude for getting these things done. He's going to do great over there.
That's amazing.
He'll do great.
Yeah, well, that's always great when you can have it. And when I say the father son, I actually just had one in Frederick County. I actually have is a young man over there. His name's Travis Tracy, and I've always put him. I've known him since he was just starting out in his early 20s, just bright. And I spoke to their school district last week, and I had no idea. And I said in front of all of them, I says, I put Travis Tracy, I put you in the top 5 people in the country that I would go to, to look to learn, to ask questions, to do all this stuff. And then I have. And I get done, and this guy comes up to me and he says, I guess I did my job. And I said, what? And he says, that's my son. And I was like, I had no idea. That's father, son working in the same district. And so that was what I was carrying off of. But having, your brother, you pick up the phone and call and say, hey, what do you think about this? And, being able to compare notes and talk about stuff, it's got to be kind of cool. And carrying in your father's honor, that legacy, which that has to deliver pride to your family as a whole.
Certainly does. I remember one of the last things I even said to my dad, rest his soul, was I just always wanted to do my dad proud. I really did. I'm that typical son that just wanted to make his dad proud, really, and just do a good job. So yeah.
Well, I'm sure that he's wherever he is looking down on you, he's smiling every day that you're doing the right things, and you're in what I consider one of the best professions. I get to look from the outside looking in, like I say, is I'm not everyday boots on the ground in a district, but I get to be a piece of thousands of districts, which is really cool. And then share things. And I think that it's one of the best professions, and most unsung heroes in any profession are operations professionals. And I think you at the helm is in Wentzville and in the state, because what you're doing with MSPMA is, you're casting a wider net to help and make a difference, not just in your community that you work in, but in all communities in Missouri. And my prediction and watching you guys grow and all the things you're doing, there's other states that are looking at you and they're saying, what are those show me most state guys doing? Because they're doing some good stuff. We need to kind of follow suit, or we need to pick their brain, or we need to. I know. I've talked to.
We've seen the fall conference.
Oh well,
it's enormous.
Let me tell you something. Well, we've been to a couple of conferences. We went to New Jersey, and there were people from New York there, and other people from Massachusetts, Wisconsin. All these states are talking about you guys, and you're going to have. I would predict you're going to have 7 or 8 states that are going to be knocking on your door saying, hey, can we come to your conference and see what's going on? We want to see if there's stuff that we can take away for our association. And that's when the secret sauce happens. That's when you have this widespread, ripple effect. It's that you drop the stone in the water and the wave kind of goes up like this. And I think that's going to be something really cool to be a part of. So, congratulations on the opportunity. So
thank you.
This has been great. They're breaking. You guys have a board meeting, and I'm going to get more of your board members on the hot seat. But you get to be the first episode that we're going to release. Did I miss anything? Is there anything? Is there a question that you've always wanted somebody to ask you that never has? Crystal ball? Anything that I
wish if you can find crystal ball wise, if you can help me with the labor shortage, we'll have a lot of.
That was that was going to be one of my questions. Fastest growing in the state. Sounds like you're doing great stuff. Are you having the labor challenges?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're no different than anyone else.
Yeah.
We're short 40 custodians, a couple of maintenance workers, but we're doing what we can. And my hats off to those folks cleaning and scrubbing and fixing rooftop units and all day long every day, and keeping the kids happy in comfortable buildings with good air quality and lights are on.
There's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there isn't a school district where I can say that those professionals are looked at. I kind of look at school bus drivers too.
Yeah.
And I call them smile providers.
Yep.
I don't call them school bus drivers, I call them smile providers. And I sit here and I look at, at one point a couple of years ago, the national average for a school bus driver was about $16 an hour, and custodians was there, or in some cases less. And I say, these are the first and last smiles that a lot of these kids are going to get.
Mhm.
And a lot of kids on Friday, and when they get off the school bus or they're walking away from the custodian that talk to them, that's the last good conversation, the last smile that they see until Monday. They can't wait to come back to school until Monday. And when you start putting that stuff and those ideas and those feelings, and it's not just pushing a broom, it's not just doing, driving a bus, and the value, we talk about our kids, can't put a value on that, can't put a price on that.
Yeah.
And so we need to, as a whole, and I think that's something, sadly, schools don't have enough. There aren't enough schools that have a PR department that are actively saying, hey, let me put this out here. I was just in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, John Stangler, in their district, and he's staffed and he's stocked. And I look at why, and it's obvious. Like, if you look at their Instagram page, you look at their social media presence, you look at their community, people want to work there.
Yeah.
There's a commitment wall. When you walk into the elementary school, there's a commitment wall, and every teacher and every faculty member signs that, which is to give the best possible environment and education for their kids every single day. And every single faculty and teacher has their signature on that wall. So when you walk in, you're given 100% every day because your name's written on that wall. That's pretty cool. But we got some work to do, and I think we're going to get better. And I think that as I say, COVID, I think there was a lot bad with COVID, but I think there was a bit of good. And one of the good things was that facilities and operations and education was in the spotlight. We just need to keep it on. So
we do.
So, hey, listen, keep up the great work. You came onto this with little to no advance notice. I grabbed you in the hallway and said, Josh, you got to get on the podcast. And you came on here.
Yeah.
And you knocked it out of the park because you're a seasoned veteran, no hazing needed. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you for letting me be a part of the organization with you and your fellow board members. I look forward to hopefully continuing this for years to come and make this thing work. So that will do it for episode 1 in person. This is the first series of podcasts we're doing in person. Really appreciate everybody's support. It's wild that we've had thousands of downloads and people listening and watching in just 8 episodes. I know that it's good stuff, and a lot of you are in Missouri and Kansas and neighboring states. If we're doing a great job, please give us a 5-star rating and review. If we've earned it, give it to us so that we can continue to grow and expand and share stories like Josh's with others. If we haven't, send me an email, Josh, Josh @beawesome, BEAUSM.com. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. I know it's not my guests. They all get 5 stars. So if anybody's not getting the 5-star, it's me. Follow us on LinkedIn. That once we get to 150 followers on there, we can start doing these live, and that'll be really cool because we can answer your questions. And we'll talk to you soon, and appreciate you sitting here with us. Have an awesome day.